Okay, Jin, after using other people's techniques. What's up, y'all? It's your man, That Dude, bringing you guys another video and giving out subscriptions down below, so go click that button. I'd appreciate it. Jin has finally ran into an opponent that is simply better than him, an opponent that is stronger than he is, and an opponent that forces him to improve and incorporate new techniques during the fight. Not, maybe practice these techniques and bring him into the fight later. No, Jin has to actually improve his fighting strategy and technique during the fight, and the opponent that does this is Park epos. And forgive me if I butcher that name, but I think I'm pronouncing it at least somewhat close enough where you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Park epos not only forces Jin to improve, but he forces Jin to rethink his whole fighting strategy during the fight and to win the fight, or at least to fight Park epos to somewhat of a draw and come out with the upper hand towards the end of the episode. Jin has to incorporate techniques that he's seen from Han and Yu. Now, we don't know if Jin has been practicing these techniques and then decided to bring them into the ring later, or if he just decided on the fly that, hey, I'm losing, I gotta try something. And so he just brings in Han's techniques, brings in Yu's techniques, and at first he starts out with Yu's techniques, like the technique where I basically say that why did she carry a sword if she can cut people up with her hands? Again, doesn't make any sense. If you can cut people with your hands, what do you need a sword for? You don't need a sword. But I digress. He brings in these techniques that he's seen from his friends, and so it shows that not only is Jin naturally gifted at martial arts, he is naturally adept at seeing other people use different techniques and trying to incorporate those techniques into his own moves, into his own way of fighting. So it just lends to itself to Jin already being more of a prodigy than we already knew he was. For most of the fight against Park epos, Jin is just getting straight beat up. Like, Park epos is stronger, he has more experience. Now, for as strong as Jin is, Jin doesn't actually seem to have that much fighting experience. He's naturally talented, the kid's a prodigy, but we don't know if Jin's actually been in that many fights. We know his grandfather was the amazing martial artist, but his grandfather left when Jin was fairly young, so we don't actually know how much time Jin has spent with any kind of formal training, like sparring, being around other martial artists and like fighting, that kind of stuff. He might just be a naturally talented kid who's just naturally good at fighting, but natural talent only take you but so far, especially in a tournament that has so many great martial artists in it. And when epos comes in, and epos was formally trained in Taekwondo, he has a lot of experience, he has all this background in martial arts, so he's able to identify Jin's weaknesses and identify where Jin's his openings are, and he's basically just beating Jin up for most of this fight. Like, he is straight like whooping Jin. Jin's getting frustrated. Now, luckily for Jin, for most of the fight, epos seems more interested in coaching Jin up than he does in actually beating Jin. So through most of the fight, he's telling Jin what his weaknesses are, and that alone lets you know that just winning the fight isn't epos' sole goal. If his goal was just to win the fight, he would have beat Jin up and just won the fight from there. There's no point in telling somebody you're trying to beat what their weaknesses are. That kind of helps out your opponent, which I am glad that Jin just didn't win the fight outright towards the end of the episode. I'm glad that epos unlock some newfound power and the fight is going to continue, because if Jin was able to win that fight, it kind of would have been a cheap victory to me, because if epos is winning the fight, he's the stronger person in the beginning and he just coaches Jin up and then Jin wins the fight from there, then it kind of will make me feel that epos was never actually interested in winning the fight to begin with. He was never actually trying to win the fight. He was just doing this to coach Jin up. But the fact that the fight is going to continue, that is a good thing. That lets me know that, okay, epos does actually have some interest in winning the fight. He's not interested in just coaching Jin up. He wants to win this fight for his own reason. Another thing about epos that I'm glad that epos was getting the moment that he got towards the end of the episode, where he taps into a newfound power and he comes back and he's ready to fight. Moments like that are usually only reserved for the main characters or people who are like main character adjacent. Usually side characters don't get that kind of moment in an anime where they are knocked down and on the brink of defeat, but they find some newfound strength and they come back and they're just ready to go. But epos gets that moment, and I think that is a strength of this show, where the side characters do seem to be getting similar power-ups that are usually only reserved for main characters. I also have to say that I love that the way this show gives a little bit of depth to the opponents that Jin, Han, and Yu are going to fight. They do the bare minimum to make you invested in these characters. I don't mean that as a bad thing. They give you just enough of a backstory to make the fights more meaningful than just a tournament fight, and that is a credit to the show, because the show is about the fight. The show wants to give you as much action as possible in as little amount of time as possible, but they need little pieces here and there to get you invested in the opponents that the main character is going to fight to make the fights more impactful. And so they give you the bare minimum to like get you to somewhat familiar with these characters and sympathetic towards them. And so that is a credit to the show. That I'm not saying that as an insult towards the show. I think it's a good thing that they're able to do it so efficiently to make you somewhat care about these opponents that the main character is going to fight. Nox has finally made their move on the tournament, and in this episode we learn more about what Nox's motivations are. And basically Nox is just a bunch of religious extremists. That's really all they are when it boils down to it. They think that their God is the one true God, and they want to kill people who believe otherwise. They're religious extremists, and that's pretty much it. And again, I don't say that's pretty much it as a bad thing. The motivation for Nox is very simple, but is realistic. So if you're gonna have a show where the people can get powers from different gods they believe in, you kind of have to have one group who believes their God is the God above all, and is the one true God, and probably gonna take that belief a step too far and start killing people based off of it. That's what people do. You know, if you're in a world with multiple religions, you're going to have people who take their religion to the extreme and kill people who don't believe it. That's just a fact of life. So if you're going in the show, if you're going to have gods, you're going to have people who believe their God is the best God. Just how it's going to be. So I like what Nox's motivation is. It's nothing too complex. No, they just are what they are, and I think that simplicity adds to the story. Also, I do look forward to seeing what Park Mu-jin's backstory with Nox is. He is familiar with Nox. He seems to know some of the people in Nox specifically. So was he at one point in time a member of Nox, or has he just had repeated run-ins with Nox, so he's familiar with them that way? I look forward to getting some backstory on him, because right now we really don't know much about him. The God of High School hit us with another great episode, and in my opinion, this episode was the best one yet. We get Nox coming in, we get to see Park Mu-jin display some of his powers, get to see Nox come in and fight against the commissioners. We get to see one of the six come in and help out Park Mu-jin fend off Nox. We get to see a great fight between Jin and IIypo. It's just all around great episode. It was packed from action from the beginning to the end. It was just everything you can ask for in an action anime of this mold. Now I am super excited for next week. Like, what kind of power is IIypo going to have? As a prediction, I do think that Jin is going to lose his fight against IIypo. If you remember the conversation that Jin has with Han and Yu explains to Jin that, hey, you don't have to win the fights. We as a group have to win the matches. And so Jin knows it's not solely on him. So I think the show was getting us ready for Jin to lose this fight. I think IIypo is going to come in with his new power up and he's going to beat Jin. And I think Jin losing would be better for Jin's character overall going forward, because I do believe that having IIypo as a rival for Jin is a positive thing. He needs someone who's stronger than him, someone he can strive to beat. Besides like the main bad guys in the show, someone who's not really an enemy, someone who is like a rival. Like I said, just a rival. I think a rival is good for a main character, and I think it will be good for Jin to lose. It'll make IIypo a great rival. That's all I have for you guys in this one. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're so inclined, also subscribe. If you didn't like it, let me know why in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one.